Chapter 16. A Bargain Made. I looked at the file, which was remarkably similar to the one he had been reading in the park. "Is that the file about Bart's death?"
"It is," he confirmed. "The file is yours to read on 2 conditions.
"Hey!" I protested. "It was just one before."
"1, you keep quiet about this. The last thing I need is for the department to find out I shared police information with you. 2, you need to tell me everything you know about Bart's death and promise to stop pursuing his killer. The little stunt you pulled tonight could have gotten you killed."
Armand scowled. "That's 3 conditions," I noted, eyeing the folder. It was certainly tempting.
"I'll add a 4th if you want,"
promised Armand grimly. "I'll agree to the 3, I said archly. "On 1 condition." Armand sighed.
"What?"
"I want you to keep me apprised of what's happening with the investigation," I shrewdly negotiated. "I want to know what's going on and what you're doing to find Bart's killer. I don't want you just suddenly shutting me out of the investigation as soon as I hand over what we have found out."
"Fine," Armand agreed. "Read the file."
I happily took the file as he left the car. Armand must have hit a brick wall in the investigation to want to trade information with me. Touching one of the interior lights, I scanned the reports. There were the lab results, indicating strychnine from the pesticide had been in the poison. It was the apricots, as I had guessed. I assumed Armand had scribbled the word stickers on the photo of the fruit. There were 2 question marks surrounding the words, "Why apricots?" followed by a note it was well known Bart loved the fruit and would order double the first few weeks of the season just to eat the extras. Anyone who knew Bart might know that he would eat the fruit, and with such a quick time before symptoms of poisoning then death set in, it was likely no one else would be poisoned. I flipped a page, finding a small treatise on different types of apricots, from domestic varieties to those imported. Food Mart, where the stickers were generated for, had a different variety than what Jackson had on his farm. Armand had determined the origins of the apricots were not from this country. There were no fingerprints on the container of poison found at Grubb's farm. They couldn't find any evidence that the pesticide had been used on the farm. Armand had gone through the same list of suspects I had. However, it appeared Tristan did have an alibi. He was seen by several people at the Renaissance Festival in a neighboring town. He had left Thursday night and didn't return until Saturday afternoon, after Bart was poisoned. Bart had gotten his weekly order from Grubb's Saturday morning at 7:30 in the morning. Someone had to have switched out the apricots fairly quickly. The person who switched out the apricots would have to have access to the area near the kitchen. Maurice also had an alibi, according to Armand. He was boating with his family. Armand had tracked down a few witnesses who had indeed seen him at the lake according to their statements. The detective had also interviewed Fergie, finding her story the same as what she had told me. Since she had been with her film crew the entire time, Armand had stroked her off the list of suspects as well, leaving just Tacky and Horace. Armand didn't seem to believe Horace was involved in the murder. Tacky was obviously Armand's best suspect. He had copious notes on the White Oaks chef, which ended abruptly when he had found out Tacky had been at baking competition, leaving late Friday and returning Sunday. Armand really was at a brick wall. I felt like the man who I had seen in the bakery tonight was taller than Tacky anyways. It certainly hadn't been Melinda or Fergie. I sighed, shuffling through the paperwork, trying to find what we had missed. The door opened and Armand slipped in, followed closely by the smell of delicious food. Handing me a drink, he pulled out of a brown bag a container for me.
"I didn't know what sauce you wanted, so everything is in the bag."
I practically drooled as I opened my container. Thick-cut golden fries stared back at me. A juicy burger with all the trimmings and a container of gravy. Complete joy, in my opinion. Armand took out his own container, popping a fry into his mouth.
"Your thoughts on the file?"
"You're at a dead end," I remarked, digging through the bag and sorting through the sauces to see if I wanted any of them. "What is this?"
"It's cheese."
Armand took it out of my hand, ripping open the bag. "Why would you want cheese? Isn't it already on your burger?" I frowned.
"I am about to introduce you to one of the best sloppy foods there is."
He spread half the grated cheese on his fries, then dumped the rest on mine. "Hey! I wasn't sure I liked this."
"You do like gravy, right?"
Armand suddenly asked. "Yes," I answered. I liked most sauces.
"Put the gravy over the cheese. It will melt it."
Armand happily dumped his gravy on his own fries.
"Normally cheese curds are used, but in a pinch this works."
Why? I carefully followed suit, wondering if the cheese was going to add any layer of flavor to a good gravy. Really, could it even be tasted through all the rich sauce?
It's called poutine. It's a Canadian thing.
He shrugged, handing me a plastic fork before digging into his own.
I am at a dead end when it comes to the investigation. My last suspect is Horace Retz, and I don't believe he did it. Bad for business to have a body show up in the store of a landlord is trying to rent.
Are you Canadian? I wondered.
No, I have family up there, Armand said shortly.
You miss Melinda, whatever her last name is, I remarked, carefully trying the cheese and gravy concoction on the fries. It was delicious. Just delicious. I decided Canadians might be okay if they enjoyed food like this. She is part of the amateur play group and does beauty pageant coaching.
Melinda Stratton?
Questioned Armand curiously.
How did she make your suspect list?
Suddenly I wondered how he knew exactly who I was talking about. Armand hadn't been in town much longer than I had, yet he knew the name of the former beauty queen. Ignoring the curiosity, I continued. She lied to me about where Tristan was. Plus, I've been told she likes Tristan so much she would do anything for him.
You thought Melinda might have killed Bart?
A disbelieving Armand asked. She made the list, I shrugged. However, I think we can both agree the person outside of the bakery tonight was a man.
There's no way to tell for certain if the person outside the bakery tonight was Bart's killer,
pointed out Armand as he took a big bite of burger. I dipped burger in the gravy before taking a bite out of it. There is no reason for anyone to be looking at the window of Tasty Treats Bakery except our suspect. That's why we set the trap. Plus, this guy ran.
Running doesn't indicate guilt, observed Armand. The way you burst out of your car screaming, I would run too.
Unfair, I rebuked before taking a long drink and another mouthful of fries.
What else have you found out?
He enjoyed another bite of burger. I told you about the stickers already, I pointed out. Melinda's a liar. The killer, which I do believe is the guy who ran at the bakery, is therefore male and still here in Oaks Crossing.
That's it?
Armand said in disbelief.
That's all you have found out?
To be fair, we had the same suspects and came to the same conclusions, I remarked.
I gave my entire file to you, and all you have in return is Melinda.
Armand shook his head in disbelief.
I think I got played.
There is something else, I replied, slightly irritated at his comment.
What?
Sighed Armand. I don't know. At his frustrated look, I explained. That's the thing. There has to be something else, something we are missing. Whether it's a suspect or clue, something is missing or we are overlooking something vital to the case. We both looked through the material again, trying to see if we could pinpoint what might have been overlooked. Sighing in satisfaction, I finished off my fries and burger, sipping the soda.
Where do you put it all?
Armand gave me a look of bemusement as he put my garbage in the brown bag.
You're tiny, and you just took down a full meal.
I like to eat. I quickly rescued the sauces and threw them in my purse for later. Unless you want the sauces.
They're all yours,
said a generous Armand. Speaking of food, I mentioned, I still can't understand why one of my brownies was in Bart's hand with a bite out of it. However, no brownie was found in Bart's stomach. The only thing I can think of is the murderer took a bite and put it there. But why?
My guess is one of Fergie's entourage accidentally dropped it and it landed where it did by luck, replied Armand. The group was high when the police came to the murder scene. Maybe one of them put it in Bart's hand as a joke and won't admit to it.
I digested his words and the food, thinking that he might just be right. I continued to look through the file as Armand pulled out of the parking lot. I was so engrossed in the file I nearly missed him driving past my bug. Hey, are you going to stop and let me get my car?
Nope, Armand kept driving. Your right foot is in a cast. You can't drive. I'll drop you off at the campground and someone else can pick up your car.
I decided not to argue since he had supplied me with food and a file full of facts. What about leaving the car overnight? Will it be towed?
I put a piece of police tape on the driver's side mirror, explained Armand. It won't be towed or ticketed.
Thank you, I said graciously, looking over the picture from Fergie and Bart's culinary class again. Something was bothering me about it, and I didn't know what. Armand pulled up outside my camper. Shutting off the vehicle, he came around to open the passenger door and help me out. Unlocking my camper, I hesitated at the steps.
Where are the dogs? Inquired Armand.
With Agatha. Putting my crutches aside, I hopped up the steps with one foot and bracing my hands on the sides of the door. Once inside, Armand handed me the crutches.
If you think of anything, let me know, Armand said. And no more chasing after people or trying to find the murderer yourself. It's my job, not yours.
I stuck my tongue out at his retreating form as he got back into his SUV. When getting ready for bed, I realized I had left the entire stakeout crew on their own at the Tasty Treats bakery. Grabbing my phone, I called B to tell them the murderer was a man, and he had gotten away.
You had a date with a steamy buttered rum latte? Gasped Molly in awe.
She leaned forward in excitement.
How was it? Did you kiss?
It was not a date, I exclaimed. There were no kisses.
Honey, the boy took you to dinner and you spent the evening together.
Thelma raised an eyebrow, fanning herself with a magazine to get some relief from the heat. It's a date.
Even if they didn't kiss at the end? Wondered Agatha.
I think a kiss would be essential to a date.
He paid for food, didn't he? Inserted B.
It was not a date, I grumbled, repeating myself. We were gathered in the kitchen as Molly and I baked again in preparation for the next farmer's market. The detective and I discussed the case. Plus, we went to the clinic for my foot.
He actually let you see the file? Questioned a surprised Conrad as he pitted cherries for me. I would have liked to have seen the autopsy report.
He did let me read the file. I repeated an earlier statement I had made before we were all sidetracked by the matchmaking ladies in the group. However, I didn't find much in the file we didn't already know. The only difference is Armand was able to confirm alibis. Tacky, Maurice, and Tristan are all off the list.
Does that mean Horace is our guy?
Agatha scrunched up her face a little. She measured out sugar for a recipe.
I would have never thought Rats would be a killer.
I don't think he is, I confessed. Neither does Armand, which means we have 0 suspects right now.
His first name is Luca, mentioned Thelma with a raised eyebrow. Tawny Tilbury told me.
I rolled my eyes and turned on the stand mixer, drowning them out in the noise for a moment. Thinking about Tawny Tilbury, I remembered I hadn't mentioned my visit with her at the tea house, nor had I told Armand about the strange reaction from Fergie's crew or the mayor. What was it Tawny had said? One of the members of Fergie's crew had asked if she had known what he had done? If Tawny was such a good mind reader, then she should turn him in? I wonder if I recalled the wording correctly. I stopped the mixer, thinking about it. Had it been a confession? Why would one of Fergie's crew kill Bart? Unless they thought they were protecting Fergie somehow.
Poor Ava, breathed Thelma. The girl is going to be heartbroken if we can't figure out a way to get Jackson out of jail.
Molly, do you still have the class picture with Fergie and Bart on your phone? I questioned suddenly. Sure, she pulled out her phone, tapping out until she got to the correct picture. Here. I took the phone. Using my fingers to make the picture larger, I looked through all of the classmates carefully. What is it? Questioned B. What are you looking for? I stopped, the bottom of my stomach sinking. He was right there. The whole time he was in the photo. Younger, thinner, a goofy grin on his face, but in the photo for anyone to notice. Somehow, we had all missed it. I supposed it was because we had not been looking for him. I grabbed my phone, dialing from my contact list. Look at the class photo, I immediately said, skipping the formalities of a greeting. Bottom left, third person in the second row. It's him. The guy who does the sound for Fergie. He's the one who totes around the boom mic. His name is Connor.
It looks like the guy, Armand admitted after a pause.
I think he killed Bart, I stated, excitement in my voice. Why? A curious Armand asked. What motive could we have? I don't know the motive, I admitted. However, after the murder, the film crew and Fergie went to Tawny's tea shop. She heard them talking about the scene at the bakery, and one of the guys, it could have been Connor, accused Tawny of mind reading and that she knew what he had done. It may have been a confession.
The police report stated that they were all high from your edible brownies. This Connor guy might just be one of the few people who get paranoid when they're on pot, pointed out Armand.
Or he could have killed Bart Baker, I retorted. Are you going to question him?
To prevent you from trying to question him? Yes, I will, replied Armand. I think Fergie's crews are supposed to leave today. I'll make sure to drop by before they go and talk to him.
Good, I smiled as I ended the call. So now you're telling the haughty detective everything? Molly wondered. We made a deal. I gave Molly back her phone. I tell him what we know, and he will pursue it for us on the condition he tells us the results. Not as much fun as if we were investigating it for ourselves, murmured Bea. I'm sorry, I sighed. However, I wanted to read what was in the file. Molly cocked her head to the side. Technically, you said you wouldn't go chasing any more suspects, right? That means everyone here is still fully capable of investigating without violating the terms of your agreement with Buttered Rum Latte. Why does she keep referring to Detective Armand as a latte? Grumbled Conrad. Trust Molly to find a loophole, I thought. Technically, you are right. However, I doubt Armand is going to see it that way. And Molly has a thing for describing people as food items. It's a game we used to play, grinned Molly. The more delicious the food, the more delicious the guy. That's just inappropriate, commented Conrad. Thelma and Bea looked at each other, intrigued. Isn't that a little tacky? Questioned Agatha as she thought over the food-describing game. I'm high-class white trash, commented an unconcerned Molly. Tacky is kind of my jam. However, I inserted, diverting their attention so the discussion wouldn't get out of hand, I'm sure Armand meant all of us when he asked me to promise we wouldn't go confronting any suspects. Conrad let out a harump. Do you think it was him? Asked Agatha. One of Fergie's crew members? I do, I nodded. I'm not sure why. However, I really do think he might have done it. He has a history with Bart as well. It's something Armand will have to question him about it. It's hardly fair, pouted Bea. This was our investigation, too. I feel like we should be able to ask this person questions. Please don't. I gave them a firm look. Armand said he would let us know what happens. If we go back on the deal, we may never get any information which could help Jackson. Has anyone asked the food mart who bought the apricots? Wondered Conrad. What do you mean? Found Thelma. Well, they must have some sales records who bought the apricots the day before the murder, mused Conrad. You know, how they traced your banking information and cross-reference it. Maybe something similar can be done. I picked up my phone, calling the detective again. Armand, came his reply. Has anyone checked who bought the apricots the day before the murder? I asked. Could you do that using store records? Then you might be able to find a suspect. I can't get access to banking records, Armand said shortly. I'm technically not on the case, remember? However, I did have one of the rookies put in a request for the video footage for a couple days before the murder. Hopefully, after sifting through hours of tape, he will find something usable. Oh, I felt a bit deflated over our big idea. Okay. Anything else before I write up my next parking infraction? Armand wanted to know. No, not really, I murmured. Bye. I ended the call, telling the group what I had heard. I'm not going to do it, declared Bea. She stopped cutting squares, setting down her knife, and pulling off her apron. I can't sit idly by and wait for us to be told if something is going to happen or not. I'm going to talk to this film crew person. I'm with you. Conrad set down his implements, wiping his hands on a towel. No, I tried to rein them in. I promised Armand we wouldn't. You promised for yourself, honey. Thelma untied her apron, setting it on the counter. You can't very well promise for others. Hey, stop! I exclaimed, watching them leave. You might want to catch up to them, advised Molly. They are your grannies and grandpies. I grabbed my crutches, following as fast as I could.